Just because you're looking at a business owner doesn't mean, oh yeah, the first impression, yeah, he's awesome. He would be perfect for leads. Let me go and sell him. Right.
Because yeah, I definitely ran into that where like a lot of and a lot of times it's just guys who are trying to nickel and dime. And some guys have had calls before, and so they're just like, oh, I know what this is, and then they just like take your free leads and run. There that happens.
I've done that too, where I would tell them, hey, I'm happy to send you a couple more leads, but just so you know, I'm paying for these ads. So I don't have all the time in the world. I'm paying for
Right.
these leads. I'm happy to pay for these leads, but I'm looking to sit down so I can figure out how to work this partnership and figure out how much I'm gonna get paid and how much I'm gonna get paid Google. And just say that flat on the phone. And that kind of accelerates things. It kind of gets things moving, or they put their hands up. And when they put their hands up, that's when they're out.
Yeah.
Yeah, as soon as I see like I'll be like, yeah, you know what? I don't think this is gonna be a good fit. You seem like you're plenty busy. Great problem to have. I would rather help someone who actually needs it. And then I just listen and I see if they're gonna get after it. Like, oh no. I definitely want to do this. Let's sit down on Friday. Or yeah, I think you're right. I think we should sleep on it. Maybe reconvene. Yeah, no problem. Reconvene in 6 months. If I'm still available, I'll work with you. You're a great guy, but for now, I gotta move on.
Yeah, that's one thing that's interesting is like it's almost like you almost can't do the pullback too much. Like you almost can't overdo it. Like that's one thing I would have done differently is I would have just pulled back the hell out of everybody. I'd just be like, oh, what, you don't want to do it? All right, fine. That's cool. I'm just gonna
Yeah.
move on.
I use it, but I try to be as considerate and as respectful as possible. I make it look like they're busy, they have all this business, and like I don't go, hey, if you don't want it, I'll just go and give it to someone else. Like I try not to be abrasive. Every day you're gonna have those check-ins to test the temperature, and you gotta trust your instinct when you're testing the temperature. Like if you feel like this guy is dodgy, he is dodgy. He's
Yeah.
100% dodgy. Like your gut
Yeah,
will be
yeah,
right
your
every time.
intuition is probably correct usually, with that kind of stuff for sure.
100%.
At some point too, like it's like if this sale is like feels like it's like harder than it should be, then it's like it's probably not going to happen. At some point I was just like, this shouldn't be this difficult. I mean, this isn't complicated. It's just like kind of a yes or no thing. Are you in or not? Like another thing too is like I had guys who were like a big thing seemed to be like of like the 3 to 5 leads I would send for free. Like whether or not they closed one of them seemed to make a pretty big difference too. Which a lot of that is just, I mean, that's out of your control too. They're a lot more open to it if they close them, and then if they don't, then they're kind of like they don't really always want to take responsibility, and they're like, oh well, it's somehow the lead's fault and not their fault for not following up properly and
Mhm.
everything because they don't.
Yeah.
A lot of understand too is because they're used to referrals that they have to kind of deal with those customers a little different than their referrals because their referrals obviously this is a referral they don't really have to do anything they just are just it's all on their term but if it's just somebody who's calling them because they looked them up on Google if they call and they don't answer the phone you got to call them back you got to follow up you got to kind of be on top of it a little bit more than like I think a lot of business owners are used to as well so sometimes you kind of have to like coach them into it a little bit like just make sure when somebody calls that if you miss the call they get right back to them because if you don't they're probably just going to go down the list the next company and all that so their approach has to be a little bit different too.
Absolutely. And that's why the follow-ups are so important. Like that next day follow-up, because yeah, they got a referral from you and they don't value it. They value it the same way they value a regular referral, just like what you said.
Yeah.
And they just drag their feet. So the next day when you call me like, hey, how was it? Did they get a quote? They know that you're serious about your leads and they're different leads. And then you're urging them to go and do that stuff. And if they do it, they end up closing some of those. And when they close, that's your in. As soon as they close a deal, that is your in to set up a meeting. If they're being dodgy about the meeting after closing a deal, it's game over.